guys, welcome. Seriously, thanks for coming. We are really happy to get these meetings going, and we've only been doing this a little over a year, but it's rapidly growing, and we continue to I think grow this community and bring value to this community by connecting us all and by connecting resources, and that's huge, especially here in Puerto Rico, maybe more than anywhere else. So hey, I'm Zachary. If I haven't met you, seriously, come and meet me, because I do want to help connect everyone and go from there. So we have this monthly meeting once a month, every fourth Thursday of the month. We also have the Deal Makers meeting every Saturday, 7:30 in the morning, guys. If you feel motivated and actually want to do deals here in Puerto Rico, come Carolina, 7:30 in the morning. We have it at PR Consultants. So you might know them, Robbie Krager and Dave. Yes, French toast. Andy makes French toast and bacon. We got to get them obligated right now. We having French toast? Firm commitment. Andy, Steve, French toast? Yeah! There we go. So we also like to do a couple other things, lunch and learns. So we have been kind of not doing those as much, but we've been doing cash flow games. If anyone's familiar with cash flow, and Robert Kiyosaki, excuse me. Robert Kiyosaki, he made this game in the 90s. It's very similar to Monopoly. It's really fun to play, so we've gotten a small group together and we play it. Trying to do it like once a month right now. So yeah, we also have WhatsApp groups. So we have REIA Rico 1 and 2. If you aren't a part of the WhatsApp group, connect with me. I think everyone that signed in, if you put your phone number down legibly, we should be able to put you in the WhatsApp groups. What else? So we have REIA Rico membership. So if you want to become a member of REIA Rico and help, right now we're just doing this kind of out of the kindness of our hearts. So we have to pay for the videographer, Mr. Don, and Base co-working. So if you guys want to help us and support, building this community, we have sponsors as well. So yeah, help us out. I think that's it right now. So I want to introduce you to the co-founder of REIA Rico, guys, Ms. Catherine Morea. What's the best way to do this?
Well, if the issue is so soon, I can't do anything about that.
How many people, it's their first time here at REIA Rico? Wow! Okay, thank you. Welcome. How many people here? We definitely want to showcase the good things we're doing on the island, and we want to contribute and be part of the community. And as a result of some of that, some people have gotten together and tried to put together the data showing what we're doing and how we're contributing. And so there's a group called Somos Uno that I got an email about this a week or so ago, and I've shared it in some of the WhatsApp groups, but I just wanted to point it out and share a QR code so that you guys could see it. And let me read some of what the email says. So it says, a group of volunteers has come together to accurately depict the charitable contributions, tax revenue, and investment into Puerto Rico by the Act 2022 and 60 decree holders. And they need your help to accurately measure the positive impact and social impact of the acts in Puerto Rico. So getting the information from DDEC can take years. And so the questionnaire is being used to measure jobs that are being created, the taxes that are being paid, the charitable donations that are being made. And so if this is something that is near and dear to you like it is to me, and you want to be part of that, or you have stories to share about contributions being made in the community, whether it's jobs or gigs or investments, there you go. That's the QR code for the questionnaire. So I'm not really part of this organization, but I applaud someone deciding to take the leadership with this and do something about it, because I just didn't have the bandwidth to do it, but I'm really grateful that someone is working on this, and I just wanted to share that with the group if there are other people like me who want to to see the community that's here trying to help and contribute and be part of the community. Let's give them the data that they need. All right, let me see what else I got. There's another event coming up that's June 6th and June 7th, and this is an event through the Invest PR and through the government. It's a convention at the convention center in San Juan called PR Now, and it's the growth for Puerto Rico. It's 2 days, and it's a free event, and we'll put the QR code up for that too. This is not something I'm incentivized to do. I don't get any money out of this. I just happen to get invited to it through Eventbrite. There you go, there's the QR code for PR Growth Summit. So if it's something you're interested in, learning about all the different acts and all the different companies that are coming to Puerto Rico and different people in the government speaking about things, banking, high tech. There's an agenda in the back where the pizza is. It's a front and back side agenda of all the speakers that are going to be at that event. You want to hold it up, Zachary? So if anyone wants to see the actual agenda, and I don't know if they run out of tickets or not. I signed up a week or so ago. So if anyone else is interested, that's June 6th and 7th at the convention center. So before we get to the next thing, I actually wanted to share a video. Hold on. Yes, Fabian?
Can you post the links in the group, the WhatsApp group, please?
Yes. And I believe I did on some of this stuff, but that's a great idea. We'll post it on all the groups. So we have a video that Myra, who's in the back of the room and has probably helped you sign in today or gave you your name label. Give it up for Myra, by the way. She's holding it together. We're going to show a video that she actually put together for the last bus tour. And this video highlights and it actually used a lot of the footage from the first bus tour that we did, which is the west side of the island. So the next bus tour that we're doing in July actually is going to be showing some of the stuff that we're going to see on this current bus tour. So realize that it's mentioning the January bus tour, and of course the dates aren't right, but a lot of the data is pertinent. So let's just spend, I think it's a minute or a minute and a half long video, and I'll let Myra cue that up so we can watch that video. And then after we watch it, we have a very special couple of guests who flew in and are part of a project that I myself am invested in. I'm really excited about this project, which is the Paradise Opportunity Zone Fund. And if you know Robbie, you might know about this project, or if you were on the bus tour in last June, then you might have seen some of the resort in Cabo Rojo. And so they're gonna come up after I finish and talk a little bit about that project. And I'm just thrilled to have them here. So we'll have that after we watch this video.
Welcome to Puerto Rico and to our second real estate bus tour on the island, brought to you by REIA Rico. That's right, don't miss out on our 2-day bus tour where you can network with those who are already making deals and with those coming from the States with capital ready to invest. Both days we will start and end in San Juan. Day 1 will be entirely San Juan, then we'll move over to Canóvanas, then Luquillo, next Ceiba, then Aguabo, and finally Caguas. And if you're really interested in learning more about Opportunity Zone strategies, real estate, and tax incentives that Puerto Rico has to offer, then this is a must-go on your to-do list. In case you already didn't know, 98% of Puerto Rico is an opportunity zone, including oceanfront and beachfront properties. So we want to leave you with a baseline when it comes to investing on the island. And if you've been thinking about joining real estate, maybe it's time to stop thinking about it. There are so many ways you can get involved and benefit in the industry right here, right now. And please join us at our nonprofit lunch with important governors at our Wednesday Investor Summit, sponsored by LZ Works and Invest Puerto Rico will feature industry experts. And please note that accommodations such as hotel, lunch, and airfare will not be included. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, isn't that cool? She whipped that video together in just a few days. So it's amazing, and it showcases kind of what we're doing and what the projects are about. And we're going to be doing this next one as a full-on mastermind, and it's in conjunction with REN and OZ Works. So it's not just REIA Rico like it was last time. So we're really doing a coordinated effort, and we have more support really helping behind the scenes. So I'm looking forward to that. So let me give the stage right now to two people that I met and then introduced into this project. So I'm very proud that they saw the value that I saw in this project and actually became part of it. So Ashley Tyson, Seth, you want to come on up on stage and we'll get your OZ presentation going, and you can talk a little bit about what you found when you got here.
So hey, I have to say one quick thing. I don't know that the disclosure slide is up right now, but I happen to be licensed, so I have to remind people that this is not advice, because advice means you've handed me green pieces of paper, and this is not a solicitation, because that means you read the full 130-page document, which you haven't done. So, now, of course this is a real solicitation, and we're going to tell you about the fun things we're doing on the island. So Robbie and Dave helped start off this great project that we're working on, and wanted to show you a little bit about, because everybody's going to read that right now, right? And I think it references my 34-page disclosure as well. So yeah, and I don't know how long Ashley's is. So.
Well, I wrote that one, so it's all good. I could recite it to you verbatim if you want. That would be an entertaining use of your time, right?
Okay, so next slide, please, because I don't have a clicker thing. So obviously everybody started investing on the island, and we're helping put together a project that is going to make it a lot easier to invest on the island and get some really amazing returns, because we've packaged the OZ together with the former Act 70. Oh, I do get a clicker. Yeah, I'm dangerous with this. So it was formerly the Act 74. It's now the Act 60 tax credit. So we're starting off with, we're going to spend 40 cents less per dollar for every dollar on the project. So that means every dollar that you have in the project goes a lot farther. On top of that, okay, let's skip, let's try to. Maybe it doesn't work. Oh, there we go. So let's move to some fun stuff, because everybody's going to read all this stuff, right? You like all our photos, right? All the fun people.
I think that it's actually interesting in, here, Seth, while you're finding the page. So, a little brief introduction. I'm Ashley Tyson. I'm a reformed attorney and the co-founder of OZ Pros, which is an opportunity zone advisory firm that we started back in 2018. And since that time, we've had over 1,200 strategy calls with people from around the United States about opportunity zone type stuff. We've set up over 1,000 qualified opportunity fund entities. And when I was on a strategy call actually with Catherine, walking her through opportunity zones, and she told me about Puerto Rico, and she was actually like doing her Zoom from the boat. And I was like, all right, I got to get involved in this Puerto Rico thing. And so I was like, all right, I'm coming down, and we can get together. I'm going to do my anniversary. It's kind of a fun story. I was like, I'm going to do my anniversary down here. And so I was like, let's get together for coffee, while I'm down. So she came over to the Fairmont. She told me about this other guy. She's like, man, this guy actually really looks like you. He's like 6'8", and I think he played professional basketball. I was like, there's no way that there's another dude on this island that's like 6'8" and played professional basketball. And sure enough, Robbie walks in and is like, I was like, dang man, that's kind of like my twin, but not as good looking. So, we then extended our flights out. I ended up, having to cancel going back. I actually got there for my son's birthday. But we went and we viewed the properties. And as I viewed the properties and toured the island with Robbie, I was like, listen, man, we need to bring the network and the relationships and the access to capital and that kind of thing that we've built with OZ Pros, and we need to couple that up with some local folks here in Puerto Rico, and we need to do some great projects. And so thus, Island Paradise QOF and QOZB were born. Now, inside of that, there are nuances to the Opportunity Zone program that we had to work through. And after a long time of working through those, we finally figured out how to exactly package it, how to deal with the nuances of the individual projects. And we've gotten our fund with our PPM, our offering documents, and everything off the ground. And so now this is kind of full circle from basically March of last year. So literally like right on a year now at this point, maybe a little bit longer than a year, to when we first met Robbie and started looking at the properties. So now we're launching, and we're going to be surging forward on some great projects. And Seth's going to tell you about some of the cool stuff that's inside of it, and I think a lot of you guys probably know that. So we're going to fire through this pretty fast and pretty quickly, hit the high points on kind of some nuances to what we're doing, and then maybe open it up for some Q&A, because I think that that's a lot better of how we can engage, answer questions about the project, and then answer any other questions you got about Opportunity Zones in general too.
So I suppose I'll mention this real fast, but I'll also mention how I came to join the project. Again, Catherine's this introducer. So I had a little bit of capital gains, and I started talking to several of my clients, and one of my clients has known Catherine for, what would you say, 20 years?
More like 12, but yeah.
Okay, so he seemed to say it was a little longer, but whatever. You know, so the idea is that, you know, before Catherine left California, my client and her have known each other for a very long time. And so he's like, you have to meet this woman. And he'd already done some other deals with her. And my firm had structured it to make sure that he got amazing tax benefits on that property. And I, of course, can't mention the property. Of course, if Catherine wants to mention it, she could mention the names of the property. But I have confidentiality rules there. And he would mention it if he was here, so, but that doesn't change things. So where I came in and joined the property, I would say, what was it, December?
Yeah, it was right around Thanksgiving, I think, that we came and we did a little mini bus tour.
So I did a little mini bus tour, and Catherine showed me a number of projects that she liked. And I got to know these gentlemen were actually Dave and Robbie, and one other person, Ari Crush, who's not here. And we got to talking, and we found out that, you know, a number of great things about the deal. So they already had this amazing deal put together. So what can I bring to the table? So what I brought was debt. So they hadn't thought about taking it and leveraging it to the next step. So we're actually taking this whole project, and we see all these wonderful tax credits, but I'm greedy. So in addition to the 40% tax credit, we're getting 70% loan to value on as constructed values. It's fully underwritten by the federal government, and it's amortized over 28 years. And we're getting a 10-year fixed rate. So depending on...
Tell them the program.
So this is a USDA capital improvement loan. So it's designed to function items in rural areas, and all except one of the properties falls into those rural areas.
So pretty much anything in Puerto Rico that's outside of San Juan will be eligible.
Basic, larger transactions.
Yep.
But again, I'm still greedy. So I wanted them to loan money on the property that we have in downtown San Juan in Santurce. And so what we did is we convinced the bank to consider that as collateral for the overall project. So they're giving us the full loan to value on the entire project, because we're listing the project as that's as additional owner's capital. So that means if you enter into the fund, and we'll talk a little bit about the fund. Let's go back to the beginning. So we have a handful of, and we're going to be doing some updating, but we have the Hawiak building here. This is going to be a 32 room property with a gorgeous rooftop restaurant with sweeping views of San Juan. We have the property that was the 80 room. So while we were down here this week, our hotel consultants have changed this a little bit. So you'll be the first to know that it's no longer an 80 room deal. It's now going to be an 150 room property. And we were going to make it a workers property, but our hotel consultant and the bank decided that the best use would likely be a jungle retreat with, if you've seen some of these videos from properties like in the Maldives with a multi-level pool. So we're gonna have a multi-level pool and sweeping views of San Juan, not even 40 minutes from downtown San Juan. And we're looking at an ADR of somewhere between $500 and $750 a night. So then we have our Manatee property. I'd love to say the Manatee property is going to generate returns like that. It's not, but it's going to cost a lot less. So we're putting it into the whole mix. And we have some great ideas of how we're going to generate that. That property is going to end up being somewhere in the 10 to 12, or right around 12 rooms total, I believe. But it's going to be a nice, stable family property, reasonably priced. And then the final item is our joint resorts in Cabo Rojo that were Bahia Salinas and Punta Iquia. And again, we're going to jump up the density there. So I believe it was originally 60 some odd rooms, and we're going to be in that 80, 90 when all the design work is finished. So, and again, we're going to be looking at a couple $100, probably a $300-400 ADR when it's all said and done. ADR is average daily revenue, and that includes the mix of the hotel room, the money that you spend drinking, the spa, all of the money that you play with the pool toys, all of those things that go into the room. And some of you might say that that's not, a reasonable rate, but let's point this out that Ashley and I came down on, this is not, this coming weekend's a holiday weekend, but this is not even the beginning of holiday season. And I think both of us were in the $400 to $500 a night to stay at the Caribe Hilton. So,
we should have stayed with Robbie in one of his places.
So again, I don't think these rates are at all unreasonable. And that's gonna give us how is this for some views of our Cabo, right down the street from our Cabo Rojo properties. The famous lighthouse, the Playas, I'm going to mispronounce it. So, what he said, because we don't want to hear my, my gringo pronunciation of it. And then, of course, the salt flats. And of course, we believe in taking advantage of the surrounding assets and making sure we're welcome. So with the salt flats, we're of course going to have a mineral and salt spa on site at the Cabo Rojo property, and we'll go from there. So really, I want to roll things into letting people ask questions about the properties and the OZs in general.
You got a anticipated returns slide, or are you going to hit that?
I thought we already hit the anticipated return slide, but let's come back here.
While you're looking for that, let me talk. So Seth is actually, he's very readily acknowledging that he's greedy, which is kind of funny. But he's also greedy for his clients and for investors and for the project as a whole. And so not only did he bring the debt piece of it, but he also brought an extreme amount of due diligence expertise and resources to the table. And so, one of the things that as you're looking at doing projects, the greater that you can bring in, especially if you're trying to raise a significant amount of money, you need to have experts that are top of their craft, especially in the due diligence front, because that's going to be extremely important for you being able to get access to the capital sources, be they broker dealers, RIAs, or other capital distribution sources. And so Seth brought that to the table with respect to the projects that we're doing. So as you can see here, we're doing a $17.5 million equity raise. So if you do the math on a 70% kind of loan on that, aggregate projects will be around $50 million that we're going to deploy. And if you look at the projects that are out there, that's, we got some other ones that we're going to roll into the pipeline, as they come up. We're targeting a 3x equity multiple with an 8% preferred return. And then we've got a waterfall that splits in a very, I think, investor-friendly fashion to where it's going to ultimately, get you to north of a 20% IRR. I think that these are conservative, but on paper, when we're talking about anticipated returns, you absolutely want to be conservative. And even these, I have a little bit of heartburn putting on paper relative to what it's going to be, notwithstanding the fact that when we run the numbers on this with really conservative numbers, that we feel really confident about what we're going to be able to do with this. So, when you're talking about a 20% IRR on a real estate deal, right? Who cares about opportunity zones and whether you got capital gains or not, right? I mean, because that's unbelievable. But when you throw in the opportunity zone benefit on top of that, and you're able to take all the depreciation from the different assets that we're going to be putting in, right, with substantial, new construction that is going to be financed on, 28-year terms with government money from the USDA, and then you get a 40% tax credit out of the chute coming into your pro forma. I mean, that's real estate investing nirvana. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And so the Opportunity Zone program alone brings a 3% IRR bump, right? And this is factoring, and this is not factoring, that's not a tax-adjusted return. So that's if you put in $1 of non-capital gains money into the mix, let alone what you're going to get on an Opportunity Zone benefit when you're able to take the depreciation off the cost segregation, utilize that to offset your income, and then not pay any depreciation recapture on the back end after 10 years. So we've got kind of the final piece to it, and we met with somebody down here today. I think that you guys may know this gentleman. I think that a lot of folks probably know him. But on top of this, we're working through an investor platform right now that's going to tee this up to where we'll ultimately be able to tokenize the asset as well. And so we'll be able to tokenize the individual investors' interest so that there could be, it'll at least set the stage to streamline your ability to access a secondary market on the back end. I think that everybody knows that that's kind of the buzz right now, is tokenization of real estate. The key though is that there's an enormous amount of work that goes into that, right, relative to the underwriting and that kind of thing. And we've already done that. So we've done our private placement, we've done our due diligence reports, we've done USDA financing with their underwriting and everything that's gone on with the project. So if we can take that and we can put that into the blockchain on the front end, it's going to make it so that your asset on the backside, when the tokenization craze kind of starts kicking in, is that it's going to streamline that and make it that much more valuable.
And we hear a lot of buzzwords, but let's just boil this down. Let's make it simple. So normally, in an opportunity zone fund or other long-term situation, you're stuck. And officially, you are stuck for 10 years. Well, shit happens. It's really simple. So now I'm going to give you the ability to sell your share to you, and I don't care. That means that normally what's prohibited in most real estate transactions is the two of you can exchange shares. So if you need to be liquid tomorrow and she wants your shares, congratulations, you now have a buyer. Instant access to capital. Now, does this mean you're going to potentially give up on the tax benefits? Yeah, it's the same as pulling out of a 401k or any other situation. So you'll have to talk with your tax advisor on that. However, if somebody dies, if you get hit by a car, or who knows what, that doesn't matter. You need that money. So now we're giving you access to that capital. So no more lockup. No more, which by the way, the IRS considers the lockup worth about 60% reduction in value. So goodbye to that 60% write-off.
So let me hit that real fast too. So one of the things so I eat, breathe, and sleep opportunity zones. It's literally what I do when I wake up in the morning and when I go to bed. And unfortunately, I've started dreaming about them, which I might need to see a therapist about. But as a result of that, we are working on cutting edge solutions to the stuff that's ever evolving in the space. So just a couple of updates on the opportunity zone stuff for those that might be interested. First thing is there's legislation that's pending right now that has been introduced by Senators Scott and Booker. And there's about 35 other bipartisan, bicameral folks that have signed on to the legislation. So it's actually got a really good shot of going through. Now the question is going to be is whether it goes through as an adjustment kind of to the tax bill or whether it gets done after the midterms. Either way, more than likely it's probably going to have legs and get through. What that legislation is going to do is that number one, it's going to extend the program. Number two, it's going to create the opportunity to have a fund of funds. Number three, it's going to create a $1 billion dynamism fund. Like I said, $1 billion dynamism fund that states and local municipalities can go after. And then the final thing is that it will help with that bump relative to the 10% and the 15% based upon when you got your money in, and the reduction that you get when you pay your taxes in what will be 2028 according to the legislation. So what people don't understand about opportunity zones is that when you invest into something, if that investment, the drafters of the legislation had to draft it this way, is that if you lose money on your investment or the value of your investment goes down, you get to pay taxes on the lower of either your original capital gain or the amount that your investment has gone to. So in 2026 or 2028, depending on the legislation, your taxable amount on your original gain is going to be based upon what the value of your QOF investment is at that point in time. So between depreciation and then also a discount for lack of marketability and the lockup that has to happen inside of the 10 years, more than likely you're going to be able to significantly reduce the amount of what your investment is worth at that point in time based upon the fact that it's locked up. It's a lack of marketability, that kind of thing. So keep an eye out for that. Any of you, the Opportunity Zone folks, keep that in mind relative to what you need to be doing and what you kind of need to have your mindset on for 2026/2028. Seth, you want final things? You guys want to turn it over for questions?
I think let's just go for questions.
Anybody got any questions? Yeah.
Question about kind of new to opportunity zones. You mentioned tokenization. I know that's kind of like a novelty in real estate right now. I don't know too many projects that have successfully pulled it off. So let's say, like that aside, if there's no tokenization, then what does your liquidity look like? Let's say I invest like $50,000 into the funds, then and there's no tokenization, then what does and I want to sell at some point. What do I do and what are the steps I take?
So we do have to point out that this is a OZ fund. It's even if you don't take advantage of the OZ benefits, it's a Regulation D fund. It has a minimum investment of $100,000, and you have to be an accredited investor. So this is not designed to be a liquid investment. What we're doing is giving you the possibility to leverage your illiquid assets and make them more liquid than they may have been.
Down the road, when there is, so part of the problem is that there's not a substantial marketplace for this stuff right now, right? And nobody knows who's going to ultimately have it. Is that going to be Solana? Is that going to be Ethereum? Is that going to be whatever, right? So nobody really knows. And there's not anybody that's done it really effectively yet. And we're not professing that there's going to be this great market down the road. What we're doing is we're setting the stage to be able to take the stuff that we've already done and to work with a provider to be able to package that stuff right now on an investor platform that will make it easier and more streamlined to go into that marketplace down the road as it develops. So to answer your question, you make a $100,000 investment now, you're pretty much, I mean, you're locked in, loaded until the maturity, right, of when we exit the assets on the back end. Now, when you look at the returns though, if you really factor in those returns, you're probably going to have your money back. Well, I'm almost certain you're going to have your money back prior to when you pay the taxes in 2026. So just off of the cash flow, you're going to have your cash back sufficient to be able to pay the taxes that you're going to owe, maybe even have your entire investment back by that point in time.
Let me just walk people through really quickly. So, and you'd see this if we talked about it a little bit more, but you may have noticed, so we have an 8% pref. So whenever there's leverage in an opportunity zone fund and certain government assets, there's a restriction on when we can pay out distributions. So from the time that that loan is issued from the USDA, we are barred from giving anybody any money for 2 years. Now that doesn't mean you lose that 8% pref. That 8% pref accrues. So you're going to get in year 3 or 4, depending on when everything closes, you're going to get all of your 8% that we've been accruing. Additionally, while we're paid our management fee is subordinate to your 8%. That means we don't get paid anything until you get your 8%. After that, we mentioned we have a waterfall approach. So from 8 to 12%, you're going to get 80% of the returns on the overall project, and after 12%, you're going to get 60% of the returns in the total project. So.
And there's just 2 waterfalls.
Just 2 waterfalls. Keep it simple.
Yep.
So how does it affect people who have individual investor decrees, where we have 100% exemption on passive and capital gains? Does that affect us when it comes to the OZ fund?
So you don't have to take advantage of the OZ functions. Obviously, these returns are beautiful even without the OZ functions. That being said, you still get all the other Act 60/Act 74 benefits, both yours and the benefits that we as the fund get. So we're getting the 40% Act 60 function, plus we get, and I'm not going to try to find that slide again, but we get a number of other benefits that happen to the revenue prior to the distribution. So taxes are reduced at the fund level before that distribution ever happens.
Yep. So I also believe that, and because I actually had this question come up, and I talked to a CPA. This is an interesting thing about Puerto Rico, is that you talk to like 5 different CPAs, you're going to get 5 different answers, especially about Act 60, right?
Yes.
You can see
It's kinda like
a lot
talking
of
to-
heads nodding out here. But she specifically said that sales of assets in Puerto Rico, so Puerto Rican-based assets, are still subject to capital gains, notwithstanding the fact that you are an Act 60 qualified resident. And so if you, so if you're investing and you're trying to get the exemptions under the opportunity zones, you have to invest, a Puerto Rican fund has to invest in projects in Puerto Rico to get that benefit, which obviously this will do. So I think that that's the benefit. Well,
I think, so what, hold on, I was just going to clarify what Ashley was saying here. So even if you're at a 0% capital gains rate, you still at a capital gains event, and you can still invest that money and take advantage of the OZ benefits, which defer your 0%, okay, that's not much of great value, but in addition to deferring your 0% and not paying 0% for 5 years, at the end of 10 years, you pay no new capital gains. And there's a possibility your 0% has expired by that point.
And it also eliminates the depreciation recapture.
Yeah, no depreciation recapture on the asset.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, explain a waterfall. Is the waterfall like how the fund makes money?
I want to hear this one, and then I'll jump in.
So the obviously we're hoping to make lots of money, and we're doing that by renting hotel rooms and other hospitality assets. And it's a really, honestly, simple mathematical item. We make X dollars per year. We had X dollars invested. Whatever that percent is, percentage being returned to investors is calculated, and based on how much that total return is, you're getting your check at the end of the year.
So let me So the way that it works, and think about it like buckets, right? And so we've got an aggregate bucket of cash that has been minted off of the project. So after we've got all the revenues coming in, and then we've got all the expenses. And so then we've got profit that we're going to distribute. So that first goes to filling the 8% bucket that the investors are due. And it's 8% from the time that they invest, right? So then once the investor gets their 8%, then it goes to the next bucket. That next bucket is our management fee. And I think we're at like a point,
So the
1%.
the 8% and 1% are technically expenses. So once the expense, that's paid out as an
Correct.
expense. Then we have the returns that are to the fund.
After that's
after
paid
the
out.
fund. So you get the 8% as the 8% is an expense to the fund. So once you get the 8%, let's say we've made, $100 and there was, $1,000. That's 10%. Well, so whatever that number is, now we're calculating that, and that's how we're returning money to the investors, all the limited partners at the end of the day.
So once you fill the 8% bucket, then it drops down and it's an 80-20 split to a 12% return, right? So you get 80%, right? So it splits into a bucket, 80% to the investors, 20% to the sponsor until it's a 12. Then after that, it goes 60-40, right? And that's how we get, so sometimes in deals, you'll actually have another waterfall after that, right? To where it'll go, you'll float to like a 16% return, or, and some of them actually go even further than that. We kept it simple where we only had two buckets. It's 80-20 and then 60-40.
And that's 80 for the investor, 20% for the fund.
Sponsor, yep.
What's the sponsor make?
The sponsor is basically the principals that you saw on it. So Robbie, me, Ari, the other folks that we have on the team, are entities.
Question. So I have some short-term capital gains from a couple of things that I used to. I will have some long-term capital gains. Can I use that money on this project?
Absolutely.
Both short and long term.
Yeah, both, either short-term or long-term. The other cool thing is that you can elect, you don't have to net out losses against the gains. So if you had, let's say that you sold something, you sold stock, right? You sold, while it was up, and then you only sold half your portfolio, and so then you had to just butt kick in the rest of the year, and you have all these capital losses on your stock as well. You don't have to net those out. You can elect to roll over the gain and carry the losses forward if you want to, which becomes really attractive, right? Because you can use that to kind of forecast where you want to position the losses and when you want to take the losses.
Well, it's simple. I want my capital It's simple, and again, I'm not actually providing advice, but I want my losses to count against full income, not anything
Ordinary
that
income,
is
not capital gains.
Not capital gains. So it's obviously much more valuable there than against capital gains.
Any other questions? Dude, yeah, man, fire away.
Of that $17.5 million, how much have you guys raised, and what's the timeline to,
We literally, how much have we raised?
We're at, what, 4.5 at this point, I think. So we're close to, somewhere in that range.
So is it like,
And we just started.
We only started accepting investors officially, I think, a week and a half ago.
and so it's like, the ball doesn't start rolling until you get the $17.5 million? I know you guys are already working on the project.
No, we
Yeah.
already have a project. The Hawiak building is already under demolition. We've closed, we own that fully. We closed on Manatee yesterday, and we have signed contracts on the other two properties, or other three properties, and those close in the next 60 to 90 days. We're working off of equity and bridge loans and other asset loans until the full loans come through.
So we broke escrow, basically before we launched. And typically you have an escrow threshold, right? And you got to raise that amount, and then you break, and then you're like, okay, we're off to the races. Well, we broke escrow pretty much before we started our
Not pretty
official
much.
raise.
We broke, but we already owned assets before we permitted non-GP investors
to come in.
And I think I'm fairly confident, and this is a rare situation, so I believe that every last GP investor is also investing direct money in as an LP as well. So all of us have actually brought money to the table, which if you look at a lot of professional funds, that's pretty rare. So, and other items. So I believe as part of that also, Ashley and I, which are both consultants as part of this, all of our fees are being paid in ownership instead of accepting fees to the fund. So neither of us are getting paid by the fund, which again is really rare.
Awesome. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that presentation from Seth and Ashley. Wasn't that interesting? I saw that property and I knew I wanted to be involved. And then bringing Ashley and Seth into it, it's just gotten better and better and better. So obviously you need to do your own due diligence. Obviously this is not a solicitation, so just see if this is something that works for you and do your research. Okay guys, hey, quiet down. Come on, we've got another speaker. Lara, can you sit down, please? Thank you. All right, guys, so I want to just take a minute to introduce my friend and fellow eXp realtor, Christopher Rivera. Christopher has spent the last few years as a licensed realtor with eXp Realty, go eXp Realty, specializing in multi-million-dollar properties, housing developments, and commercial real estate. He's also an ambassador for Philantro Investor, woohoo, and Crypto Realty Group. He's born and raised in Puerto Rico and joins us tonight with our market report about what's going on in Puerto Rico. Please give it up for Christopher Rivera.
Good evening. A lot of friends here. Nice seeing you again. I'm going to do this very fast. It's an interesting night, great information we had tonight. So I'm going to share with you some information about what's going on in the market in Puerto Rico. And hope you enjoy that. Do I have a clicker or someone move that? Yes. This is going to be. I'm going to hold on this phone. Well, first new, Airbnb identified 20 plus cities in Puerto Rico that got booked for the first time. And I found out that this is a very interesting news because it means that we're getting out of San Juan and other touristic places in Puerto Rico to do Airbnb. And this happened since the pandemic. The hosts are opening new locations in Puerto Rico for locals, international tourism, as they also notice changes in tourist behavior, including a decentralization of tourism in Puerto Rico. Some places, here are other towns where this is happening. Arimas, Arecibo, Bairoas in Caguas, which is a very urban city. Bajaderos, Arecibo, Cayuco, Utuado, Comunas, Yabucoa, Corcovado, Atillo, Coto Norte en Vega Baja, Duque en Naguabo, El Negro en Yabucoa, Espino en Añasco, Los Dolores en Río Grande, Pajonal en Florida, Peñapor en Naguabo, Sabana Hoyos, Arecibo, en Santa Bárbara, en Canóvanas. Now guys, I've been in Puerto Rico all my life, and I know two of these places. I mean, I know the towns, but not the barrios, right? Which is the first place, which means that for Airbnb, Puerto Rico is getting very attractive, and it doesn't have to be in San Juan to be a good deal. Okay? The centralization of destination is beneficial for the tourism in Puerto Rico, since it presents new options of accommodations in local destinations away from the traditional touristy places, Airbnb said. Great news. This is not that good news, but Roderick Miller departs Invest Puerto Rico. How many of you know Invest Puerto Rico? Well, for those who has not, Invest Puerto Rico have the mission to create new businesses and bring people from the States to invest in Puerto Rico. And in my opinion, I have met this guy and he has done a great job. The new CEO is going to be Ella Werber Nieves, who today is the COO. I know they're going to keep doing a great job, but it's something you should know. Another news, IPR Pharmaceuticals invest $3.5 million in photovoltaic solar park, which is all those, I don't know if you can see it, which is all this here. $3.5 million in solar panels. Okay, they have invested more than $10 million reducing carbon emission in other plants. IPR continues to be committed to the manufacturing in Puerto Rico in the most sustainable way possible, exporting its products to more than 120 countries. Now, why I bring this news? Too fast. As a real estate investors, we need to consider the space for solar panels and energy. When you make an investment, consider that there is a need, and the government and the pharmaceuticals and everybody is investing in this kind of technology. Ivan Nance knows about that, right? So have this in consideration when you are going to invest in real estate. DDEC unveils Economic Development Framework for Puerto Rico. The Department of Economic Development unveiled a strategic framework that is called Propósito. Propósito is purpose in English. Okay? Plan is described as an integrated and collaborative project which is implemented in conjunction with private companies, nonprofit organizations, business associations, and government entities. It is a strategic framework for economic development and work with a spirit of intentional achieving objective to transcend government administration to achieve the continuity. Propósito strategy identifies 5 pillars. Integration, where the connectivity of the island companies is the global network. Entrepreneurship, and that's why we're here, right? Competitive citizens, advanced infrastructure, I should say. This aims to develop a sustainable, innovative, and resilient infrastructure with the modernization of the electric network to provide reliability and green energy, quality water, and sanitation facilities. And the other one is social well-being, the purpose to promote the well-being and general quality of life. For many years, economists, consultants, politicians, and professionals from all sectors have pointed the way, and we've executing it with this strategic framework because the similaridades in Spanish have always been greater than the difference. So we hope that the government keeps doing what they have, and we are part of the change for Puerto Rico. That is my market analysis. Fast, I told you. Thank you very much. I will show the information later so you can have it.
Thank you very much, Christopher. It's always good to find out what's going on in Puerto Rico, and I always like hearing, all the exciting things and new programs and good news. So we kind of know what we're doing with real estate and what we're able to experience here. It helps make the decisions we need to make. So I think it's an important part of our meeting. So now we're going to get to our headline speaker. So I actually met Ricardo. I'd been on this island for probably 4 or 5 days when I met him, and I met him at Uncommon Entrepreneurs. So he and I sat down, and it was at Tantalo, I think. And we sat down and started talking real estate. And at the time, I wasn't even think I was going to invest in Puerto Rico real estate, and then there was just so much opportunity here, I couldn't turn it down. So since then, I've kept up with Ricardo, and he's actually been my closing attorney and represented me in several of the deals that I've been involved in. So let me tell you a little bit about Ricardo. He has 30 years of real estate business as an attorney, developer, and broker in Puerto Rico, and over a year with the brokerage firm Keller Williams in Kentucky. He graduated from Bentley University with a Bachelor of Marketing degree in '89 and Universidad Interamericana de Derecho in '97, and he's a FINRA arbitrator since 2015. So let Ricardo guide you through this tropical real estate jungle. Come on up, Ricardo, give him a hand.
Gracias, Catherine. Good evening. For all of you that were wanting some free legal advice at the end, it's going to be open for any type of questions that you want. So I'm going to try to be brief with, no, I don't have slides. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible with the message I want to bring, okay? So how many of you have done real estate in the United States? No, okay, how many of you have done real estate here in Puerto Rico already? Okay, so there's pretty much experience here, but there's sometimes, I've encountered the situation, and if this is what we get out of this talk, it's basically, if you're not sure on what you're doing, if you haven't done it repeatedly, don't sign contracts before having somebody that's knowledgeable and that can guide you through the process. Contracts and agreements are the base of the business, and if you don't get that straight from the beginning, you might get the service of an attorney later on that costs more. Okay, so the attorneys get a bad rap because we usually come in when there's a problem and it costs more, than rather having somebody that knows what they're doing help you through in the beginning, and then that would be more efficient for you, okay? So basically, consult before signing, okay? If you're not really sure, do that, okay? If that's the only thing you get out of this, then it's great, okay? That will save headaches for everybody, save time and save money, okay? That's basically the original reason why I studied law. My first deal, I started doing contracts. I thought I knew what I was doing. I was doing it in good faith, and I realized that people don't deal in good faith. So have somebody to look after your back here, okay? Especially if you are seeing contracts in Spanish that you don't understand, and that should be a red flag for you, okay? So there's difference and similarities between how attorneys and law work here than in the United States, okay? Notaries here have to be attorneys. Okay, in the States, the notary figure is totally different. So notaries in Puerto Rico have a responsibility to both parties. Okay, so if you get a notary to do a closing, that notary has a responsibility with the seller and the buyer. Okay, it's not only for the signature. The notary has to prepare the document. They're responsible for what's in there to everybody that's in the deal, okay? And there, sometimes we don't enforce having a title insurance because that notary that's doing that transaction has to be bonded, okay? So that's one of the main differences, and so especially in residential transactions, having a title insurance is not that important because of that main difference, okay? So. Notaries, and that's also the reason why a notary charges between 0.5 and 1% of the transaction. Is a lot more than in the United States, but it's because of the responsibility that notary has, okay? So there's also the property registry figure, which is also very different here in Puerto Rico than in the States. A registry doesn't create rights, they just make public that transaction that goes in there, that gets presented, okay? So there's a difference between a transaction being presented and transaction being inscribed. So a lot of you think that, okay, you did your transaction, it's gonna go into the registry, gets presented. It doesn't, it's not inscribed as soon as it gets presented. It takes a while. They're starting to get faster, but it's already, it takes time for them to have it inscribed, okay? So if you have a transaction and in 2-3 months you go into the registry and you don't see it inscribed, it's probably presented, it's just that it hasn't gone through the process, okay? So there are a few deeds that do have to be presented and inscribed in order to be valid. Those are mortgages, when you do condominiums, and sometimes also the option to buy it doesn't need to be inscribed, but there's if you have an important option to buy that's basically a purchase and sale agreement, you won't want to get that inscribed. Basically, if you are afraid that that person is going to die, that something is going to change on the way, you might want to have that inscribed too. So that's one of the things that if you have a deal and you want to, you have certain concerns, talk with your attorney first before just signing and going right in, because you might want to have those agreements that you have be secured instead of just going ahead and doing your deal just the way you thought it was going to be, okay? So basically that was what I had to say about the registry. Also, lease agreements, you might want to have those inscribed to talk to your attorney, because there's some that don't need to be inscribed, but some that should be inscribed in the registry. Yes, you can put leases in the registry. The difference in that is that when you put it in the registry, you can oppose it to everybody, and if the property even changes title, you have an inscribed right there. Okay, so that protects the lease, basically. So that's why I say, look, before you sign it, have somebody that's knowledgeable, that has experience, look into it, because you might want to have some stuff done differently in order to get you to where you want to be, okay? So I already talked about the notary. Who pays the notary? That can be arranged. Usually the buyer would be paying the notary, but we're in a seller's market. Usually the seller paid the notary, and that was before. Now we're in a buyer's market, in a seller's market, so the buyer ends up paying the notary. If you want to have representation and you're not choosing the notary, then you might want to have another attorney look into it, into the transaction. But that might, if you pay in the notary, that might double your cost. So, you know, if you're willing to pay for a legal advice on your transaction, try to get your notary in there, because that would be you just paying once for legal representation in your transaction. But if you don't, then you might have to pay for an extra to an attorney to look into your transaction. It's not really needed, but if it's your first couple of transactions, you might want to have something to look into your documents, guide you through, okay? Red flags. Have an attorney that's fluent in English, deeds in English, okay? I've seen closings where the deed is in Spanish and one of the parties doesn't speak Spanish, so request for copies before you go in there, probably one day before. If you see it in Spanish, request for it in English. Don't let them give to you the runaround on that, okay?
Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Sorry to mess up your speed there, but I remember from the real estate exam, if I'm not mistaken, I remember from the real estate exam that the contract had to be in the language of the party parties. So if both parties spoke Spanish, the contract would be in Spanish. If one spoke English, it should be in both languages. If both spoke English, it could be in English. And I think I got that right. I mean, it's been years since I studied it. The deed can also, you have a right to request that it's in English if you are not a Spanish speaker?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Look,
You're signing something that you have to be able to read.
exactly, Chris. You have to understand what you're signing, okay? In the alternative, if they don't, if you know, you're just a ground zero and you need to have that sign, you can make the notary go ad verbatim, translate the whole thing for you, okay?
Or get a witness, have the signature that read the entire document.
Yeah, but the notary, that's a notary's responsibility because what you're saying, if you bring a witness, that's then a third party, that might be somebody that is not in the transaction or might cost you as a translator. The notary's responsibility is that both parties understand what they sign, okay? They have to offer you to explain everything. If you make them, they have to read it word by word too, okay? So it's better to have them just doing it in your language, and that solves a lot of problems, okay? So that's how you achieve really what you want. Have your attorney, the attorney that's doing the closing, be fluent in English. The purchase and sale agreement should be, and the deed should be in English. Closing disclosure, I've seen attorneys doing cash closings with no closing disclosure or very poor. Request that in cash closings, okay, before the closing, because sometimes there's expenses and stuff that they don't tell you, and you don't want surprises in the closing. Okay.
I'm going to be that pupil who just asks questions. How far in advance are you allowed, or what is reasonable to ask for the disclosures? Is it a day, a week? Like, what is a reasonable expectation here?
Well, technically it's 24 hours. Yeah, so you should have a closing disclosure the day before. Okay, at least. Okay, huh? Yeah, and sending you the deed and everything.
Any financing disclosures that are coming from the banks?
Yeah.
You should know exactly how much your check should be, right, at that time. Okay?
Yeah. 24 hours at least. Okay? And the attorney should also be flexible. Okay? The attorneys here and notaries are sometimes very, we don't see the variety of transactions that you guys sometimes do. There's a lot of originality in how you guys want to structure the deals. Creativity, yeah. Get somebody that can walk you through, because it doesn't mean that if we haven't done it before that it cannot be done, okay? There's a lot of that going around. I saw somebody asking about subject to deals, which means people are accepting properties that have mortgages. So that can be done. A lot of notaries don't do that here, but it can be done. Transactions that involve payment in cryptocurrencies, that also can be done. A lot of notaries are afraid of that. Short sales, payment in lieu of you're getting people that owe money to the buyers, so they get the property in lieu of that payment. Foreclosures, all of that. Get your attorney involved in that, and get somebody that understands that, because not all attorneys understand that. Not all attorneys even speak English, okay? So basically that's what I wanted you guys to know tonight. And the part that we're gonna take advantage of is now, because it's open for questions. Chris.
A transfer deed that's been presented to the registry, can it be rejected?
Okay, transfer deed meaning sales deed or okay, yes. If it's not, there's. That's why I said deeds can be presented, but they do not get inscribed automatically. Okay, that means that that deed goes in there. Somebody in the registry goes through the deed, checks that everything checks out, that there's a tract. Okay, that the guy that you're buying from is the title holder, and that title holder bought from the person before, and that there's a track of owners. If there's something off in that transaction and the registry sees it, they'll notify the notary. And if it doesn't get corrected properly, then that might be kicked out of the registry. Okay, it doesn't mean that your transaction is not valid. It just means that it cannot be registered, okay? So most of these issues can be solved. You just need somebody that has knowledge how to solve those type of problems. Questions? That gentleman back there.
Are you able to wholesale here in Puerto Rico? And if so, what does that process look like?
Okay, if I've heard two versions of wholesales. If the wholesale that you're talking about is doing a purchase and sale agreement and then turning around and selling it to somebody else, that gets done here. The thing is a bit different because we don't since the cost of doing a transfer is high because of what you have to pay to the notary and to the state. Because a lot of what gets here, it's not the legal fees. Less than half is the notary. A lot of it is stamps that goes into the deeds and registration fees. We can do the wholesaling, but it doesn't. The wholesaler doesn't go into the tract. Okay, doesn't go into the sale. You're basically selling your purchase and sale agreement. Okay, and there's other creative ways of doing it. Get somebody that's flexible and that's creative too. But okay, no, attorneys don't know everything. Okay, and a lot of times when you come with something new, you probably know more about that certain subject than the attorney. But what the attorney can help you is make that legal, okay? Make that work for you, okay? So I've learned from this group a lot of different stuff, okay? So if you have questions about that, hit me after this and I'll be more than happy to talk to you. You later.
What is the typical time? How long does it take from the time you close your deal and it's registered? Is it a month after your deal closed? 2 years?
Okay. First, it depends on how fast the notary presents it to the registry. Okay, if he goes and the next day he presents it, then it varies from section to section of the registry. Okay, some sections of the registry, I've seen inscription in 2 weeks, which is great. Before, you could have years of that document sitting there waiting for the registry to look at it and evaluating it and then inscribing it. So it's really a toss, okay? It depends on the section that you're at. But what you really want it is to be presented, okay? Because that's the first step. As long as it's in there, it will show up in the title searches that you have a deed presented under your name. Sir, the question. You.
When you say section, sometimes I'm from here.
Uh-huh.
Which you know there are geographical, the registry, you have an office on one, but also the west side, so depending where the property is located.
Uh-huh. Sí, depends on the section, okay?
Geographical, by section, you mean the geographical, there's one.
Yeah.
More
Yeah, registries like the county. Think about it as the county clerk, and the registry. Well, we don't have. It's not by county. It's by areas, but it's basically that. It's geographically. It's organized geographically, and there's some sections that are more effective than others. Dale, Fabio.
Can I do a subject to and then drop it to a new note for the end buyer?
Can you say that again?
Can I do a subject to?
A what?
And then take it over
A subject to. Okay.
Yeah. Then sell it to the end buyer on a new note, a wrap. Drop it into a new loan. Let's say I bought it for 100,000, 4%. That's the loan, the existing loan. And then I find another buyer, sell it for, I don't know, 140. And then the new interest rate will be like, I don't know, 9%. So I make money on the difference of the sales price and money on the difference.
Okay, who's the note holder? Who is the note holder?
There's two note holders in that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Banco Popular and then Fabian.
But you're gonna be doing a second mortgage on that?
I'll be the second mortgage. I will pay the first one, but I will receive the whole payment, and then disperse the first.
Then you're going to the first position.
No, I'm not a first position.
Okay, okay. Who?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wraparound mortgage. Yes.
Banco Popular has $100,000 mortgage. He's writing a seller's mortgage to somebody else at, say, 5%, because you're never going to get 9, but 5% at 140. He keeps 1%, pays the Banco Popular 4%. He keeps 1% and the extra $40,000. That's what he's saying.
Yes, but 9%.
It's very common. It's very common in the States. It's common.
Okay, guys, the thing with subject to deals is that it does have its risk, and everybody, the notaries are kind of worried about that, because if something goes wrong, then notary thinks they're gonna be liable for some of that. Well, it's not that it's illegal, okay? The bank, when yes, exactly. If they find out that the title was transferred, they can bring out the acceleration.
That's a very small percentage of risk.
But it's something that can happen, okay? And if they find out what you just said, and they just want to accelerate the mortgage, then that's gonna be a problem. But
Well, that takes me to my second question. Can I do a trust here?
Of course you can.
No.
What? But what do you mean? He can? Can you do a trust? A trust regarding what?
Like a land trust or a deed of trust? I've been told no on multiple occasions that we couldn't use. So in Florida and probably Texas, we use a land trust, and the land trust owns the property, and that's a very common way to own real estate. If we can do that in Puerto Rico, I'm going to change tonight how I'm doing business, because that is.
Okay, I'd have to look into that, but it's pretty basic that trusts own property.
Because in Texas, the trustee is the only one visible. The beneficiary is not visible to the rest of the world. So the banks don't know who is the owner. I can just say the owner is the same owner as before. So that's why I'm asking that question.
Well, that would be similar to doing it with an LLC. Yeah, I know. With trust, LLC, it's a persona jurídica, entity, an entity, a legal entity. It has personality. Yeah.
So let me ask, so Bobby, you're buying the property from Joe Gonzalez, and you're taking it subject to Joe Gonzalez's mortgage with Banco Popular. And then you're creating a trust that says the Joe Gonzalez Trust.
Yeah.
So if the bank sees something in the change of title, what they see is something that looks like Joe Gonzalez created it for his own family. Then you sell it to Margaret Garcia and you sell it to her for $40,000 more on paper.
And I just changed the beneficiary benefit. That's it.
Right. So all the public sees is the Joe Gonzalez Trust.
Yeah, well, as I said, I don't have all the answers. Actually, a lot of things changed in 2020 behind closed doors here. So, yeah, they did a full revamp of the civil code and a lot of things here. So there's stuff that if you want to find out, we can sit down and talk about it. But I know that trusts can own real estate. You can create a trust to own a piece of real estate.
You can create a trust to own a piece of real estate.
Well, I'm pretty sure about that. I know people that have trusts that have real estate, that owns real estate, that was created to own real estate and property.
I think, can I add?
Sure. Seth.
There's a process that a lot of real estate investors back in the States like their land trusts. The reality is that the vast majority of land trusts, since tax code changed federally a number of years ago, are probably illegal. So the issue is that you can't create a device to hide from paying taxes, either at the territory or state level. That's called tax evasion.
Oh, yeah, but okay, if
So the other item is, in most jurisdictions, they have beneficial owner rules that require you to disclose the beneficial owner of an asset. It doesn't matter if the trust says, I'm not allowed to share the name of the owner. Guess what? Government trumps whatever your trust says. So if local real estate law says you must share the beneficiaries, guess what? You share the beneficiaries no matter what the language of the trust says. The whole idea behind a movement of a lot of people that use these land trusts is an attempt to hide who the owner is for either perceived asset protection or other things. It doesn't protect you from most assets items. Most of the organizations, some of them like Anderson and other people, have no clue. They've never actually tested it in court.
Okay.
Interesting.
Chris.
On a different note, if the sellers are divorced in the States, but the property's in Puerto Rico, is there anything that you have to do extra in order to sell the property?
Okay, sellers.
I have a listing with a seller.
Uh-huh.
They're divorced,
Uh-huh.
but they divorced in Florida.
Uh-huh.
They're selling the property here in Puerto Rico.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything that I should do in order to get?
Well, get them both to sign the sales deed.
They don't have to have the divorce certified and.
Well, but they're selling. Is it one selling to the other, or they just selling to a?
They divorced and now they're selling the house.
Okay, I'm having some issues with that too for a property in Ponce. I have to get back to you later on that because I'm trying to work around on having the divorce resolution going through a process to get validated, because that's what they told me in the registry that but this was one of the spouses, ex-spouses, selling his part to the other party, or doing a cession of interest. But technically, if they both show up to sign the deed, it's no problem. They can sell it even if they're divorced.
Okay.
What did they tell you that you need to have have that?
I had the listing, got a buyers with first bank financing. They tell me that I have to have the decision, the judgment, the divorce judgment in Florida certified,
But validated here.
validated by the Supreme Court here.
Yeah.
And then in that process, because there's land and children involved, it had to go to the Attorney General and to the Department of Families before the judge can sign off. And I lost the buyer because of it. Buyer walked.
Okay. Okay, then,
If I had known that when I took the listing, I would have done that all at the beginning.
okay, got it.
But I didn't know because I don't have a degree in law
Uh-huh.
in Puerto Rico. So I was asking you so you can inform these guys on making sure that if there's a divorce involved, it has to be a divorce in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And approved by Puerto Rico. It drove me crazy. It took us 6 months to get it straightened out. Not just because of COVID, and I had to go to all these different people, and everybody had 45 days to answer. And they took 43, each one of them. So I lost the buyer because of it.
Look, this is things that I've seen. I'm not recommending this, okay? But I've seen both parties come, sign, say as if they were married, and they sell the property and it's gone. And nobody knows. How are they going to know that these people got divorced in Florida? As long as they both signing the. So that's why you get an attorney to look into it before you do anything. Okay.
Subject to.
Zachary.
So you've done transactions subject to transactions.
Yeah.
So,
I did one for Sean.
really? So
Yeah.
tell me how it works from transferring, the loan, bank.
No, yeah, okay. Bank, all the in a subject to transaction, bank.
Describe really quick what subject to.
Okay, it's subject to transaction is that somebody comes a property that has a mortgage on it and assumes the mortgage.
Right.
Assumes the responsibility for the mortgage. They don't assume
They start paying the loan.
yeah, but they're not officially assuming it, okay? Because the bank still holding the original mortgagee as responsible for the note, okay? So everybody has some responsibility there. The seller will still be liable until that mortgage is paid off. The new title holder has the property with a lien on it that if it doesn't get paid, can lose that property.
Essentially, there's a trust, right? There needs to be a trust between the seller and the buyer.
No, trust you mean like?
Not an official trust.
Yeah.
I mean like a relationship.
Oh yeah, no, they have to. The head seller has to trust that the buyer is gonna pay. Okay.
If somebody, it sounds to me like if somebody takes and assumes that loan, that's not that great a deal for that existing.
No,
That's a bad deal
no.
for the seller.
The seller can.
Still on the hook.
Exactly, seller still on the hook. He's still liable for that loan, and they can go if the property gets foreclosed on and it doesn't pay the whole thing. They'll go after the seller. So the buyer loses the property, but the seller has to pay whatever is not covered in the foreclosure procedure.
Hey guys, we need to quiet down for the sound. So let's try to minimize the conversation.
Next question.
Is there any other questions?
Yes, in regards to the subject to, since everybody's talking about it right now, once you make that contract, you assume the loan at this time, right? Now, your name is gonna go on the deed of the property, and you can add your name to the insurance as well to back you up? Or how does it work in Puerto Rico?
Okay, basically, you're the new title holder of the property, but the property still has a lien on it that the note holder can call if he doesn't get paid. Okay, so there's a responsibility that the seller still has until that loan is paid in full, and the buyer is assuming also the responsibility that if it doesn't get paid, he can lose that property on a foreclosure procedure. So that's basically, but the title holder is a title holder with all the rights as any title holder here. It's a fee simple transaction. Okay?
Now, do you have to, just to make sure, do you have to notify the bank about the transaction? Or is
No,
that done?
technically,
Okay, right.
if they're supposed to be notified and they're gonna say no way, okay? So that's where the risk comes at. If they find out, they might accelerate the loan, and that's a problem, okay?
Now, why is it so difficult to find an attorney or someone that can draw the paperwork?
Because when there's a problem, since the attorney has the responsibility on the content that's in there, then they don't want to be part of that problem. So basically, the attorney covers his responsibility by stating it in the deed that it was explained to the parties of what's going on in there and what they're risking. Okay? Yeah. Uh-huh.
We rehab the property. Are we able to then refinance out of it, or?
So
we get a subject
go
to
ahead.
property,
Uh-huh.
and then we end up rehabbing it. So now we're increasing the value of the property. Are we able to then refinance out of it?
Yeah, I would recommend refinancing and getting the previous owner out of that, and because you don't want to have that could, you have a risk there from the bank finding out and they just going ahead and accelerating the mortgage, and you don't want that happening. Okay, if you do that and the property increases in value, just refinance and get that loan out of the way. Okay, it's cleaner.
Is there a term in Spanish for subject to, or is it just like subject to for everybody?
Si asumiendo hipoteca, assuming the mortgage.
Mortgage payment.
Yeah, that too. But you basically, you take.
Another name is still on the mortgage.
Huh?
Because your name wouldn't be on the mortgage.
No, you're not. You're not on the mortgage, but you're doing the payments. You're assuming that mortgage, unofficially. Yes. Can the what? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know answer to that. I don't. Talk to me after this so I can. Okay. A what?
Is there a contract for assuming the contract in Spanish? I don't know that the seller and the buyer sign all together, so that assuming the loan.
Okay, that would be between the buyer and the seller, but that doesn't include the bank, okay, or the note holder. So that's what you do. That's basically what you should do in the purchase and sale agreement, okay. Anybody else? We're good? Well, thanks a lot for being here. It's been a pleasure. If you have any more questions, you can ask me later.
Thank you, Ricardo. All right. Hey, before we go, though, we like to do needs and wants. So we just want to give everyone a chance. If there's someone here that's looking for a deal or a resource or has a resource to share, and you want to come up on stage for a second and share 30 seconds, let's give it up for Christopher LaRue.
Hello. Do I have any farmers in the room? Remember, men don't garden, we farm. Okay. Talk to your friends and neighbors. I have an aquaponics urban farm in Bayamon for sale. Includes the land, the equipment, and the fish. $220,000. Already operating, producing
Get mic'd up and
spinach,
talk about Ukraine.
herbs, fish, of course, and other growing items,
Ricardo,
and
have the
room
mic.
to expand. So if anybody wants to get into aquaponics, give me a call. 787-459-8371. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything that they need or want to share? Yes. David McCauley, come on up. Oh, Robbie, come on up. Give it up for Robbie Krager, the second tallest man in the room.
Just put it here.
We're going to talk about Ukraine?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, Zachary, get up here too. Zachary, talk about this.
Hey everybody, so normally you will hear me talking about real estate. My company is PR Consultants. We do projects all over the island, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. Zachary, Adon, and I are going to go on a mission trip, a humanitarian mission trip to Ukraine. You guys are probably aware there's a war going on over there, and since right before the war started, one of the nonprofits that I'm on the board of directors for started trying to get people out of Ukraine. And so we've been doing that for over 3 months now, and we've raised a bunch of money. It's, there's a network of people on the ground that have been tirelessly kind of working to get these people to safety. And our mission is to go over and bring some additional funds and just kind of come alongside and support and see the different groups that are going on, and we're all over the region. So Eurasia Partners is one of the nonprofits. The other is that Zachary is more familiar with is Global Focus, which is a needs-based nonprofit. If there's anybody here who's in Act 22 and you have to give some money and you care about the people in Ukraine and you wanted to do that, we have a mechanism for that through Global Focus, and we'd just like to invite you guys to come alongside of us. And we're going to go about a month from now, right after the next meeting, we're going to go to Ukraine. Yeah. So we're going to go for 2 weeks. And so we've got a plan A and a plan B, because plan A will take us actually into Ukraine to a couple of cities and for a few nights. If that region starts to get hot, then we're going to bail out and kind of circle around Ukraine and stay on the outskirts. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and we'll post some stuff in the different chats. And Global Focus is the way that you can give. We're trying to raise 25 grand, and yeah, that's it. And we could answer questions if you want, but that's all.
Bam.
Bam. All right.
I'm looking for other deals. I don't know if anyone else has anything specific. So fourplexes, guys. If anyone has any fourplexes right now, or I'm looking for fourplex if you have the home loan. I'll have everything. I'm approved already for 450. So if any agents or anyone wants to show me properties, fourplexes in I really like Santurce, yeah. Santurce, Rio Piedra, Condado, I guess, you know, that's nice too. But so someone asked earlier about wholesaling. So we're actively doing wholesaling, and hey guys, listen up. Look, really quick, let's just focus. 5 more minutes, guys. Yo. All right, here we go. If anyone's looking for, oh, you got time, Andy? All right. Well, I got deals, homie. That's what I'm trying to say. I got deals in Caguas, and we're about to close something, or we're about to list something in Barceloneta. So if anyone wants to buy 4-bedroom, 2-bath, that's brand new in Barceloneta, I got you. And yeah, anyone have any other needs and wants? All right, so we'll close it out. Andy's got to go. He's a busy man. Let's get him to his next appointment. All right, guys, thanks.